I remember to record. Uh, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Oh, that popped up now. Perfect. Okay. We love and live all together. Yes, brilliant. Brilliant. All right, let me just share this real quick. Venus coming. She's coming. I see just a bit. Otherwise, engage. So I just have to do this on my own. I'm keen to do the read through because there's just so much, and so many layers. And it's nice to get that detailedness, the nuance of it. It's very powerful. Very powerful. Oh. Just want to share it. Sharing is important. Been it to featured, add it to the group, to the guide at least. So for any of you watching this, you can find it always in the guides tab under guide 1. Yeah, the recordings of it. I put it there every day. Okay, brilliant. Okay. Oh, just share it too.
Hello.
Brilliant, Bina. Brilliant, brilliant. Wonderful, wonderful. What are we doing, Bina? What are we doing?
Yes, so here we are going to celebrate Moreness and share Moreness as usual. So welcome everyone, whoever is watching and will watch us, either live or recorded. Welcome to Moreness. This is what
Yeah,
we are setting our intent to share.
yeah,
It is
yeah,
it is of course this is all about intent. The intent is of course to share Moreness,
yeah,
but it is not um, completely dependent on us that okay,
yeah.
are we successful to share moreness or not? Our intent is, and we try our best, but at your end or at anyone's, like okay, in this case whoever is going to watch it, it depends completely solely on them that how much they are going to receive. This is what capital R receptivity is for us, that you can get moreness if you have a clear intent and focused
Yeah.
attention on that to receive and perceive moreness. You can receive and perceive, of course, get out of anything, but especially when it is intended to share from the other side, then it is going to be a miracle. Okay, I feel that this is magic for me. That when someone is here or okay or something or whoever having this intent to share moreness, and I have the clarity to extract, to perceive, to receive, capital R, receive moreness.
Mm.
Then the magic happens, a true magic. It needs two to tango. This is what they say.
Takes two
Needs
to
two to tango.
tango. Yeah.
Yes, and this is exactly when it comes to be aware, to have, to get value. So this is what we are going to do, and Sel is going to elaborate more about what we discussed yesterday, of course.
Not
So we'll
just
go on.
me, you too. Both of
Yes,
us.
thank you. Yes, but you are going to share, and then we will, of course, I will ask questions. Then, and if I have
Yeah.
something, I will share too.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So are you
Okay.
preparing?
Almost there, almost there, almost there.
Okay.
I just got to get back to the. I just got to get back to the group now.
Yes. Today's thought for me, it was about
Mm-hmm.
a dream. And
Mm-hmm.
I had a dream and I shared with Sil that, okay, this is something. It was directly connected to uh, some incident in my life, happenings in my life. And I saw those people in my dream, and I can, of course, I cannot be sure that it was um, my own thinking, my feeling towards that, or it was just a pure dream. But I choose to believe that in every situation, like, okay, it was my own thoughts, I was thinking about that, or maybe something trigger those memories or something. In any situation, I choose to believe and have trust that whatever is coming to my consciousness via dream or via any other source is to give me some value, to remind me of something to be cautious of. Like, okay, this time you need to be different. This is what Sil reminds me today. And he says that, okay, oh, it's a reminder. And then I was like, wow. So we don't need to get like really abstract meanings all the time from any dream or anything else,
Mm.
but just sometimes just pay attention to that. And then I was like, okay, it was a reminder from Sil. He didn't say that, but I was like, okay, yeah, I don't need to worry about what the meaning could be and blah blah blah. No,
Exactly,
just
exactly.
simply
Just
that, okay,
practice.
oh, if that situation will come again, if those people I will meet them again, how I'm going to respond, how am I going to respond to them and interact with them.
Mm.
So that was a like, okay, kind of like giving me a preparation cue for my subconscious. I was getting this.
Preemptive practice.
Exactly, exactly. Thank you for giving this preemptive practice.
Yeah,
Sometimes dreams or any omens or signs, they're not just giving you like some really like wonderful miraculous thing, just giving you that, okay, be there in this moment and pay
yeah,
attention to your own behaviors, actions, reactions towards things and towards
yeah,
people and towards yourself in life. And that is something today I just learned, that we don't need to always just go into that, okay, oh yes, I'm going to decode my dream and found symbols and omens and signs and everything.
mm,
No, just pay attention to
mm,
the very obvious, like, duh, okay, yes, those people, what happened last time? Yeah, this time,
yeah,
just be preemptive and then be cautious. So don't get fall into the same trap of trying to be nice and be a people pleaser and all those things. No, this time,
yeah,
just be true to yourself and
yeah.
acknowledge that. That's it.
And
No big
in the
deal.
dream, acknowledge that you can behave differently. So in your conscious life, you look at the dream and say, "Oh, I was different in the dream. I felt different. I had a different mood," which means I can have that in real life also. Because sometimes we imagine if we're different, it's going to cause a problem. But no, the dream is telling you, look, it's okay. You know, you felt okay. And as Bean and I have been discussing on related matters, when we are sometimes bothered by our actions or what we're going to say, and we say, I don't want to hurt their feelings. Actually, you don't want to hurt your own feelings. That's the issue, right?
That was a big,
No,
harsh uh, reality check for me. When Sir says,
yes.
okay, because in my mind, in my understanding, whenever I was getting into like, okay, trying to be nice, trying to be polite, trying to, of course, always a people pleaser, um, in my understanding, according to it was like, no, I was trying to be nice and polite because I don't want to hurt other people's feelings. But based on what? Based on what?
Exactly.
I never actually asked them. And not only that, okay, it was all about me, but also that I I was snatching, ripping off the opportunity for them to act accordingly. I was assuming, thinking on their behalf, oh, this is going to be this. Who am I to think
Yeah,
about that? So it
yeah,
was like, so the people pleaser like me, or always not trying to be nice people, they are not actually good if we go into more depth and see that, because not only that, okay, you are assuming things, but also you are thinking, assuming on their behalf. They didn't say
exactly.
that.
You've
You
been
didn't have
arrogant.
from them. You were just thinking like, okay, yeah, they will think like that, they will feel like this. Who who you are? You are not entitled to do these things. No one, of course, have a right to do these things. And this is what mostly people pleasers and trying to be nice people always get into. And in most cases, I assume that in most cases, I cannot say that always, but in most cases, at least I was into this. I was assuming and I was thinking, and sometimes, of course, taking actions accordingly because I assume they are going to feel in that certain way.
Yeah, yeah. But
And then,
there's
of
just
course, I
avoidance
changed.
of you feeling in that
Yeah.
certain way.
And then I was like, okay, I'm going to avoid this because it is not pleasant, it is not nice, it is not polite. So I just changed that. But of
Isn't that
course,
fascinating?
oh yes,
I find it
that was a
most
harsh
fascinating.
reality check, Sil. Sorry to interrupt you, but when you were saying like, okay,
No
yeah, like in
problem.
a normal
No
thing,
problem.
no, it was not a normal thing. It was a big, harsh
Yeah,
reality check for me.
yeah,
But it was
yeah.
absolutely needed and appropriate also. I don't know that, okay, how, because this being nice, being polite is so entrenched in me. So of course I need, it will take time. I assume that it is going to take time for me to get completely out of this.
Mm,
Because for me, I still believe in that okay, we don't need to use a sword when you can take the same
right,
action with your pen. So
right,
I'm a
right,
strong believer
right.
in these simple things.
Yes,
In
yes.
our
And
local
that's
regional
capital D
language,
diplomacy.
yeah.
That's capital D diplomacy.
Yes, so in our regional language, people say, "Oh, when someone can when you can actually, um, they say that eliminate your enemy." Okay, I don't know the other word for
Yeah,
this. But, with sweetness, so why to use poison? Like, okay, by being
exactly,
friend, you are going to just
exactly.
decrease the number of enemies. So they say, okay, if you
Yeah,
can just destroy your
yeah,
enemy or eliminate your enemy by being giving sweet, why to give poison?
yes, yes. When I was a teenager, you know, as is so often the case with teenagers, not all, but this thing of enemies and who's your enemy, who's your friend, and all this. And I'm like, man, this whole enemy thing. Okay, all right. So I was in the habit of thinking things through to the end, uh, thinking thoroughly about them. So I really thought about this whole thing with enemies. Okay, how do you defeat your enemies? What's the best? Because I was very into strategy. Strategy was a huge deal as a child. Right, that's how I survived. Never got into trouble because of strategy. So I'm thinking this whole thing with enemies through. I said, in the end, the only way you can defeat your enemy is if you go in the regular ways. Yeah, you defeat your enemy, but then you got to deal with their family or their friends, and it's like never ends, right? You can't kill everybody in the whole world, and if their entire huge, big, extended family, if you do that, then the whole world is going to be your enemy because now you this massive killer. I mean, it's just preposterous, right? Okay, not that as a regular person you're going to go around killing people, but it taken to its extreme, right? So it's not practical. And okay, so in the more practical sense, if you defeat an enemy, what does that typically mean? It typically means that you've put them down in some way, you've caused them embarrassment in some way, you've caused some problem. Man, do they like this? No. You may have won in your little battle, but all you're going to do and get from your enemy is resentment. So they're going to come back and try and remedy this some other time. And you keep on having this ongoing battle. It's like, come on, this to me was just stupid. It's ridiculous, right? So I said, no,
Exactly.
that's you're never going to win that way. However, if you make your enemy your friend, It's the only way to truly defeat an enemy is to make them your friend. That's what I came up with. That was my
Wow.
takeaway
Wow,
from all that,
brilliant.
right? The
Wow,
only
brilliant.
way to truly defeat an enemy is to make them your friend.
Yeah,
And
I'm saying brilliant
that's
because
that's the
you found
start
it
of
in your
capital D
teenage.
diplomacy.
Yeah.
Say again, Bina?
You figured it out in your teenage. That is amazing.
Yes, yes. But it's just, it's not because I'm any special genius or something. All that I had in my favor was the habit of thinking things through to the end. That's it. It's not doesn't take much to do this. I mean, anybody can do it if you just keep on thinking about it. How do I defeat my enemy? And you come up with all your plans. Does that really work? No. Okay. I was just thorough. I was just in that habit of being thorough. And I don't want to say blessed with thoroughness because it can also be not so much a blessing, right? Well, anyway, in this case, it's a blessing. That's all. That's all it takes is just think it through to the end. And then it's a duh. Then it's really a duh. That's the only way to actually truly defeat an enemy is to make them your friend.
Yes.
There's no other
Yes.
way. Right? There's no other
Yes.
way. Because, like I said, in terms of traditional military, dictator, bad person, horrible person thinking, it's like kill everybody. That doesn't work. It's first of all, it's very hard, and second of all, if you do succeed, then your friends look, wow, you're really a killer that goes and kills everybody just because of some insult or some nonsense, and then they become your enemies because you defeated the other enemies. See, no, it's a no-win situation. It's a stupid business. So no matter what you do, it's a losing business, right? So take a different tactic, and that was the birth of capital D diplomacy. Right there, right, Bean?
Yes. Yes.
And we're going to see this
It's,
in yeah. Right. So again,
no, I was just saying that, okay, just few years ago, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago,
yeah,
I realized I used to hear that, okay, from the childhood, it was a thing that, okay, choose your friends
yeah,
wisely. Like, okay, oh,
yeah,
you are going to be
yeah,
understand by your choice of your friends, like who you are friend with. And that was a
yeah,
thing. Like we used to hear that. And that's why it was like, okay, oh, always just think about like, okay, who you are friend with. I was never been into this thing because for me it is just like, come on, because I was never been able to choose friend by any criteria. For me it was very personal, like, okay, if I like someone, if I'm feeling that, okay, they are interesting people, I love to be friend with my that's why from the childhood my friend circle was very diverse, and still it is. But few years ago I heard another proverb from the local regional thing, and they were saying that you're not going to be uh, understand by your choice of friends, but by the choice of your
yes,
enemy.
yes,
And
yes.
I
Coming,
was like,
sir,
oh,
coming.
and I was like, what is this? How it is going to be like? Okay, your enemies. And just 2 3 years ago, I realized that yes, because if I'm just foolishly in fight in competition with everyone, this is
Yeah,
going to tell so much about me, that
yeah,
where my
yeah,
focus and attention is, where my priorities are, where my interests are.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
if I don't have any interaction with people like who are okay, yes, accidentally or just rarely, that's a different thing. But being an
yes,
enemy or having an enemy of someone who is
yes,
completely from a different league of or a different mindset, I don't know how to say that, uh, that is something we have to be very careful about. Like, okay, yes,
mm,
some really nice people, they don't have any friends. So you cannot like, okay, yeah, they don't have any friends, nobody likes them. No, but just look that how many people actually with whom they are engaged with not so comfortable interaction.
yeah,
I think that, okay, when
yeah,
like still I never see him like really getting into fight or an
mm,
argument when people have complete nonsense, and you're like, okay, yes, yeah, yes, I hear you, and then that's it,
yeah,
because he don't want to engage with them.
yeah.
I don't, it's a
And
very different
also,
strategy.
it's also
Yes.
about understanding that stuff is going on side. inside people. They don't mean to be difficult. They don't mean to be troublesome. They just got conflicting motivations and they got stuff going on. And when you understand the stuff, then I can't hold it against them. They're learning, they got conflict. Bina, look at Sher's
Yes.
comments. Sher says, this year
Okay.
is about different, being and doing different. Yes, yes, this is a very
Oh,
powerful
wow.
theme. And the celebration of difference, as I mentioned yesterday, celebration of difference. Celebration. I have to emphasize, it's the celebration of difference that sets the new nobility apart. They don't just accept or acknowledge difference or tolerate difference. No, no, they celebrate it, right? So it's not like, yeah, you're different. All right, I'll put up with it. No, no, they celebrate it. It's a magical thing to them, difference, right? And they explore it. They revel in it. They just marvel at it and enjoy it and appreciate and celebrate difference. Celebrate difference. It's very important to celebrate difference. When we do that, it's very hard to have conflict with another. Yeah? Because mostly
Yes.
we have conflict because we want people to be the same as us, right? Then Sher goes on to say, yes, I don't want to risk feeling hurt or mean. So I worked to be inappropriately kind. This is a huge personal insight, and not many realize this, right? It goes back to that core concept that we've mentioned many times, and that is inappropriate application of goodness. Very powerful concept. To realize that our problems sometimes come because we're trying to be good and we don't know how to be appropriately good, and we cause problems, like in this case, right? So Sher ended up being inappropriately kind. We need to be tough, right? Which is to be positively ruthless. That's what being tough means, right? There's a positive ruthlessness, like all good mothers have this, or good nurses. They have to have this, right? You're cleaning out that gravel from the wound, the dirt from the wound, and the patient, sorry, I got to clean it out. You want to get an infection? I know it hurts, but I got to do it, right? That's it. Too bad, right? So that's positive ruthlessness, that you do what's right, even though it's not always pleasant. But when it comes to psychology, we can be, clean out that wound, and it's a bit unpleasant. But we have more leeway. We have more tools at our disposal to be able to clean out that wound without causing pain psychologically. This is capital D diplomacy. Yes, it takes a lot of extra work. Yes, it's a bonus goodness. This is a noble act to do that sometimes. You don't need to, but it's a big skill to learn, and it's very useful to do. Then Sher also says, Bina, listen to this, very powerful. I believe people pleasing is self abandonment. Very insightful. Yes, absolutely sure. That is a very good quote, which I shall add to my quote pile. Yeah, very powerful. Yes, you do. You abandon yourself because you're saying others and supposedly their preferences, like Bina said, supposedly is the preference. But really, it's an excuse because you're abandoning yourself and you're saying, I don't want to deal with feeling uncomfortable. So I'm going to shift it onto saying, oh, look how wonderful and good I am. I'm not going to make others feel uncomfortable. Yeah. But this is not good. And we have to face those awful truths and deal with them. It doesn't have to be unpleasant, but we tend to make it so. And we think it's worse than it actually is. And when we realize that it's not such a big deal, then we can deal with it, right? Bina, will you read the next comment there? Yeah, please. I want to add this to my quote file. Bina, are you there?
Yes. Yes.
Will you read Sher's next comment, please?
Okay. Yes. It is
There, on the
breaking.
topic of.
Yeah, she says it's cruel to be kind at times.
No, you read the two comments above that.
Okay.
On the topic of, read that comment. You're not seeing it there?
No, no, it is there. Okay. On the topic of capital D diplomacy, I believe people pleasing can create enemies and set ourselves up for future negative encounters. I found if I can't make a friend, I make the effort to understand them.
Exactly. This is capital D diplomacy at its core. Capital D diplomacy at its core is profound, extreme, thorough consideration of another. Yes. Now, not always is it practical to make friends with others. They don't always want it. It's not always the appropriate thing to do. However, understanding them, that's always appropriate. And when we truly understand others, like I said earlier, we understand stuff is going on. We understand they've got cultural bias. We've got to understand that they've got to keep others happy and they've got to be horrid and mean because that's what's required of them or whatever, right? You grow up in cultures where this is, you're supposed to do this. And, when you understand, there's nothing to forgive. Very powerful understanding, right? And also when you understand, you know how to deal with stuff. You can act appropriately. You need that understanding, and especially that understanding is based on awareness and discernment. You get that ADU, right? Awareness, discernment, understanding. In other words, if our understanding is got awareness and discernment underneath it, and that gave rise to it, now it's a depth understanding. And that understanding is there for us to be able to use, to do something with it, right? So it's no good just understanding. You need to understand and then apply, right? The application is what makes a difference. But then we can act appropriately. Now, of course, sometimes people get caught up in madness bubbles. And the only thing that you can do when you really understand this is there's no interacting with them. Let's just leave them alone, leave them be. It's like a black hole, right? You can't love a black hole better. Whatever energy you give to a black hole makes it more of a black hole, right? So you have to be unaware of this and step back and say, that's it. I can't cross the event horizon of the black hole. I got to keep my distance, right? Because if I go too close, I get sucked in and I get crushed, right? So this is very important to understand that sometimes the appropriate action is to leave things be. And when it comes to people, especially people we love, it's one of the hardest things ever to do is to leave people do. Yes, sure. Celebrate. It's cruel to be kind at times, precisely. It's all about appropriateness, right? And not falling into the trap of always and should, right? We tend to think of kindness as an always. No, it's not. Yeah? Sometimes your kindness is inappropriate. Yes. Hello, Norma. Hello, Norma. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I'm glad you're here, Norma. Yes, Sher says, we do need to cut off our energy when we face a black hole. Absolutely. Otherwise, you are being unkind to the black hole. Your kindness to a black hole and making it worse black hole, it's not helping it. It's making it worse. So your kindness is exactly the worst thing you can do. Yes. You're reinforcing their narcissism, for instance. Yes. You're condoning it. You're saying it's okay. That's a terrible thing to do to somebody who's caught up in a narcissist trap and bubble, right? And narcissism is a fantastic black hole, right? And cruelty and meanness and superiority paradigm, all that stuff, right? Well, I see little hearts floating up there. Brilliant. That's very cool. Somebody giving hearts to something. I love it. It's very nice. See the little hearts floating up there. Very cool. All right. Let's go. Let's go to the story and do the reread. There's a nice quote here that starts it off. That's fantastic discussion there. Just wonderful. This is why we're here for these types of discussions. This is the moreness, right? We've looked at something very simple, having enemies, having friends, and how to deal with it. And we've got so much moreness, right? To understand that the best way to defeat an enemy or to not have an enemy is to make them your friend. I don't even want to think in this concept of defeat. Yeah, it's a terrible mindset. It's superiority's paradigm logic. Bina dropped off. I assume she'll come back. Right? We don't want this. We don't need this. It's just like, come on, really. To think defeat and victory, that's all superiority paradigm thinking. Yeah. We don't want to get caught up in that bubble. So this is a moreness to say this, you can do something else, right? Not think according to that paradigm. That's the beauty of it. To think according to a different paradigm. Yes, the moreness paradigm, the nobility paradigm, the impeccability paradigm, appropriateness paradigm. Very different, right? Superiority is not your pressure, which it is for the vast majority of humanity. They don't even realize it. but they think that, and they don't even realize they're caught up in it, because sometimes it's not that they're trying to be superior, but they are defensive against the expectations that you're going to be superior, like most people, and try and put them down, and be nasty and bitchy and snarky and all of this other rubbish, right? So they don't want to be that way, but they're defensive against it, and they're expecting it. So they interpret your behavior according to that paradigm. We have to be very careful of that, right? Not everybody acts according to the superiority paradigm. There are exceptions, right? And in this environment here, for instance, we don't have this competition, ambition, looking clever. None of that is part of it here, right? And again, too, we celebrate difference, right? In the superiority paradigm, difference is not well tolerated. You got to be the same. You got to conform, etc., etc., right? Don't stick out, be a part of the system, because if you stick out, then you get pushed down. Difference is not well tolerated in the superiority paradigm. It's really sad, because it's fear. Yeah, fear of difference, being special, being better than you. Oh no, we can't have that. You can't have anybody be better than me. Yeah. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible logic, horrible culture, right? But that's unfortunately what our prevalent culture is. And just to be aware of it, when you understand it, then you can do something about it. And you can act with it. It's wonderful. All right. Oh, let's read here and go to screen share. I'm glad you're here, Norma. I'm glad you're here, Norma, joining us. I'm glad you're here. Gestures and friendships. I want to just comment on the title, first of all, since we're now doing capital R reading and we're going into detail and things, right? Why is it called a gesture? Gestures and friendship. Why is that in there? Not just, friends and good friends or something. Because Biella makes a gesture with Hyla. And well, so does Ursula. And then Hyla responds with a gesture of her own, right? But it starts with Biella's gesture. And what is a gesture? A gesture is an action, a doing that is sort of over and above the normal. A gesture says, I'm doing something even though I know it may not have any value, it may not lead to something, it may go nowhere whatsoever, but I'll do it anyway. And typically with gestures, you sort of know ahead of time that likely it's going to be useless, but you'll do it anyway, right? So a gesture is a gift of energy, profound, deep gift of energy. And if somebody understands a gesture and realizes this, it's a big deal. You're doing more, you're going over and above, you're giving more energy than is needed in the situation. So it's very, in Biella's gesture here, comes very quickly and very subtly. It's almost unnoticeable, but it's a big deal. It's there nonetheless, right? Now, Hyla, to her credit, recognizes, yes, and she does so because Ursula is paying attention. And Ursula's recognition and awareness, because Ursula is paying attention on a different scale, different level, different awareness. So Ursula is noticing these nuances because she's become accustomed to them in Biella, and she's looking out for them. So her acknowledgement of it helps Hyla be able to acknowledge that what she might otherwise have said, did Biella really do this? Is this deliberate? Is this on purpose? But Ursula's awareness, just the reflection of the awareness, a force of awareness in the forefront of her awareness, yeah, is that she can see that this is what Biella does. A gesture is without true meaning. Sorry, I don't understand. A gesture is an intent. Yes, it is an intent to goodness. It is an intent to do something nice for somebody, something good for somebody, something that isn't needed to be done. It's bonus. It's unnecessary. You're making extra effort. So the intent is, yes, to give extra energy. The intent is to be good, to be nice, and ultimately to be noble. Right? A gesture is a very noble action, typically, right? Because not only is it not needed, but when you understand that you're doing it, even though you know it might be completely useless, you do it anyway. right? That takes quite a lot to do something that you know is likely going to be useless, but you do it anyway, right? But it's a very difficult thing to do. We don't like doing things that are useless. It's a big problem, right? Um, that book, Digging Holes or whatever, but there's a movie on it. I don't remember the details, but I've seen this in other instances, right? If you want to torture people, give them things that are unnecessary to do, like the digging the holes, right? If they'd said, well, dig the holes because we need to put posts in here, lamp poles or whatever, okay, there's a point to digging the holes. But the problem that messed up those hole diggers, that really got them bent out of shape and upset and bothered, was the fact that they dug the holes and nothing ever was done with those. Okay, just dig another one. The waste of time and waste of energy, and them being treated as utterly useless, in other words, being disregarded and saying, well, you don't matter, I'm just going to use you to do unnecessary things. That's what got them. Yeah, in other words, ego, right? They never learned the real lesson there to set aside the ego. But still, when we do something that is useless, it goes against us. It goes against all of our inner being because energy is precious and we don't want to waste energy. So a gesture which is giving energy on something that is potentially useless, this is a profound gift. A very big deal. Very big deal. Yes, a gesture is an intent to mourn us, correct. But it's a particular intent to mourn us because it has that element that you are doing something that may go nowhere, right? That's what makes a gesture different to an intent, because an intent you feel is going to go somewhere, right? So you have confidence in your intent. So it's a particular intent to mourn us, yes, but it's a very specific type of an intent to mourn us, and many different intents to mourn us. Yes, but yeah, it is an intent to mourn us, but a very particular one. Like I said, it's this the key element of a gesture is that it may or may not have any result. Yes, it may be completely useless, maybe even not even noticed. Yeah, so very big deal, very big deal. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, difference breeds fear. Exactly, because it's unknown, and when you insecure, and when you understand that superiority paradigm is completely premised on insecurity, right? This is it. The entire paradigm, you're always insecure because you always looking to pull down the person above you, but you know that the person below you is trying to pull you down. So you're never secure because your position is always being attacked. The only time you're actually secure is if you're at the bottom of the pecking order, peculiarly enough. Right? But then that has other disadvantages to it. So yeah, it's very cool. So gesture is a very particular peculiar instance of an intent to mourn. Right. So let's see in the gestures and friendships. So this is what defines this particular chapter and these particular friendships, because they're going with gestures. And it's not only this first gesture, there's a whole bunch of them that's going to come. So be on the lookout for the gestures. Right. So we read the quote here. Attunement to all while doing. Attunement to all while doing. Not just attunement to all, but while doing and being aware of that attunement. That's the ticket. Then the love flows. What a statement from Biella. So do the implications, associations, connections. That's the power of attunement. It enables the flow from within. I love this quote because it's so Biella. It's so new nobility because it's so layered. It's so sophisticated, so exquisitely sophisticated. She wraps this whole lotness, moreness into all of this, saying so much with so little, right? I mean, just that first sentence there, attunement to all, while doing, capital D, doing, and being aware, again, capital B, capital A, and being aware of that attunement. Yes, tumbling along. No. You need to be aware and you need to be specifically doing. Then the love flows, because then you have that full connectivity, that full moreness coming. It's very intense, exactly, sure. It's very intense. And not only the love, she says, there's always more. And the more here is when you fully in attunement with full awareness and doing, then the implications flow. Implications are incredibly powerful. It's capital I implications, associations, connections. That's the power of attunement. It associates, it connects us. And when we connect to implications, we are connecting to a moreness that's not obvious necessarily, right? Because an implication, yes, there might be obvious implications, but you kind of have to make that effort to connect to the implications. You have to think about them, right? So it takes a deliberate, special awareness to pay attention to implications. It's a good habit to train your brain to look for implications. If you want to get smarter, right today, learn to look at implications and make you smarter right away, right? We see the hidden world through implications, right? It's there. It's kind of duh when you see it, but it takes a little bit of doing to train the brain to see implications, right? We are all geniuses at implications. We just need to practice that genius. We've gotten a bit out of practice with it, right? Yeah. It's very powerful. Oh, good being, good Norma, good, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Makes me so happy. This makes me so happy. Such a joy to discuss with you guys. It's so brilliant, so marvelous. And then she finishes. She says, "That's the power of attunement." And look at this last point. It enables the flow from within. That is something special when your flow from within becomes enabled. Now we have to ask, wait a second, we've got this chapter and gestures and friendships, and this is the opening quote of the chapter. If you've been paying attention to the chapter headings and the quotes, all chapter headings are very, very particular, right? They are very precisely chosen. There's a lot of thought that has gone into these chapter headings, and also the accompanying opening quote. Why? Because they set the overall connectivity for that deeper, greater connectivity, right? So we're looking at the topic, at the theme. And in this nuancedness, Biella, by paying attention to attunement, is saying, pay attention, pay attention. It's not just about attunement, but about the particularity of the application of attunement in these particular ways, right? Paying attention to implications, association, connections, and then to connect to that power of attunement, and then to be able to enable the flow from within. Biella is attuned right away, is attuned to Hela, because she's attuned to the environment, she's attuned to the overall. So it enabled her flow, right? And it enabled her to, in that moment, to do something immediately, and that is profound, right? As we're going to see in a moment. Attunement enables flow from within. Yes, yes. When this particular attunement, sure, right? Attunement while doing. Yes, because we can get caught up in our doing and forget to be attuned. Yes, whatever our doing is. Our doing may be writing, for instance. But if you can maintain your attunement while you're doing of, let's just say, writing, you're going to have this extra element of the attunement coming into your writing. That's incredibly powerful writing. It's difficult to do because you're writing about a particular topic, but I've also got to stay attuned. And you've got to maintain an awareness of that attunement. Yeah. So not only do you have to maintain an awareness of your particular doing, but you got to maintain an awareness of being attuned while doing. Yes, that's the ticket. Then the love flows, capital L love, which is moreness, which is energy, which is appreciation, joy. Also, so do the implications, associations, connections, right? So it's a multi-layered thing to do. And it's fantastic. Then the flow from within comes. Then your moreness starts to pour out. It's unbelievable. Yes, exactly. You've experienced it and it's difficult to do. I know I missed the beginning, but to heal requires attunement. It is seeing the underneath. Yes, you didn't miss much. We were just kind of talking um, about people pleasing, really, and so it was on a little bit of a tangent. So you didn't miss. You came when we started on the chapter, but yes, absolutely. Healing is absolutely attunement, and that's precisely it too. A good healer is not only paying attention to the body and the symptoms; they're also paying attention to the way the patient interacts and connects with their environment. In other words, their inadvertent attunement, right? It's a particular way of attunement, but it's not really attunement because it's inadvertent. Attunement is deliberate and in harmony. But you may be out of harmony with your environment, yes, or you may be connected to a poison in your environment. Right? Now, you're not specifically attuning to that poison, but you're being influenced by the poison. See, so we need to pay attention to those implications, connections, associations. Right? That's then we see when things are discordant, right? And there's unharmony. Yeah, exactly. No, that's good. That's good that you don't do people pleasing. That's very good. That's very good. Man. You have to be careful though of doing it to ourselves. It's very important. Wonderful, wonderful. Here comes Bina back, just in time. Right. So as I mentioned yesterday, this quote is from Dance with Life, a book written by Biella. It's an actual real book, and there's a lot to this book, and it's a very cool book, right? I have lots of entries already into the book, and at some point it will get finished. But it's a real book. It's a real book. A real book. All right, so here we read the chapter, and it's picking up from the last chapter where they'd been interacting with Dream Deer, who they call Dream, and Dream Deer is an innocent, right? And she's in her own wonderful world, and she's just like a forest creature type of a thing, and this hairdresser, but or, anyway, so she leaves. Dream had flitted away without saying anything else except things to collect. Ursula watched her disappear, thoughtful. Dream is an anomaly on Nobelia. No one knows how or when she got here, Biella said. She moves around constantly, but somehow available to her friends when needed. It's remarkable. She's almost always out in the open. The only time she's indoors is to do someone's hair. Just a little wrap-up comment on Dream Deer. Now, again, it's not idle. It's a foreshadowing or foretelling a little bit. Dream, not dream specifically, but what dream and who dream and what dream represents is going to come later on in this gesture, capital G gesture. It's going to feature very prominently, right? And you're going to see the influence that dream has on Biella's psychology and sharing the gesture that comes later. It's a big, very big gesture, yeah. All right, now, just to also put this in context, in case you've forgotten, where Ursula and Biella are right now, they're up in Tree City. And these are massive mountain-sized trees, right? That have this huge crown and branches going out parallel, right? On the crown and spread out for a very long way. That there's houses on them and all sorts of stuff, right? And then the branches connect to the other tree, right? They grow and connect so that they that's how they stay parallel like that, right? And so you've got these massive trees all along the side of this mountain that are connected to each other, and that's Tree City, right? Each little tree like its own little suburb, you could say, yeah? So when they're walking on this branch, I mean, this branch is like walking on a major roadway, or big. It's wide. It's multiple, tens of feet across, right? A very huge branch, right? And they various sizes. But that's why, just to give this environment, and on these branches, there are other branches that are growing vertically, which are just regular trees, right? I mean, but you've got a regular tree on the branch of this huge, giant, massive, great big tree, right? Massive, massive giant trees. And they come into the story later as well, right? In a very profound way. So we're starting on a very cool part of the story here. Lots coming. Biella started walking towards one of the large branches. They're in the center on the crown. So now they're moving out towards the branches, leading away from the mountain. I have something else to show you, Biella said neutrally. Ursula picked up on the even tone and was instantly interested. I see Ursula starting to be wise to Biella, because Biella wants to not she wants to cue Ursula that something's coming, but she doesn't want to get her overly interested because she wants what she's got to show her to come as a bit of a surprise, right? Because if you're expecting something wonderful and you have too high expectations, then the thing can be a bit of a disappointment. And Biella's kindness, her consideration, a deep, deep consideration. She doesn't want to spoil the wonderfulness by setting the expectation too high, right? But Ursula's also wise to this, so she has an expectation now, but not specifically and not like something special. It could be anything. So she is ready for some surprise, right? But just nuance. This is the nuance that is part of Biella and the new nobility's behavior. Now, Biella is a real expert at it. She's the epitome of the new nobility. She really illustrates and exemplifies the exquisiteness that's there, right? And Biella is an excellent example. It's the prime example. Yeah, love your trees. I'll never look at the tree the same way. You haven't mentioned color. That's interesting. The trees are very rich in color, Norma. I tried that somewhat deliberately. Yeah, you don't have to try to love Ursula. I love Ursula, yes. And Norma, it's something I've done very deliberately. I don't describe the environment overly much. Yes, some writers like to really give detail. I prefer to give the general overall abstract concept. And you, the reader, can fill in the details according to how you would like to imagine. And I've done this very deliberately. So there is a paucity, a scarcity of specific details like that by design. It's up to you to fill it in, and you can fill it in any way you like, right? I don't want to say it is only this way, is only that way. I'll leave that for the TV series. Bina and I were talking about this. When I wrote this, I write it very visually. I write it as if it's a TV series, not a movie. It's too long for a movie, and a movie can't do it justice. But certainly as a TV series, right? And I think in that way. So when the TV series comes, then you'll see exactly what it looks like, or at least how we imagine it to look like. But until then, you're free to imagine it any way you like, right? And of course, it's a tree city, and in this tree city, you've got a forest on top of this tree, right? Forests on the branches. It's a huge place. And they all vary, right? And they like variability. So you can imagine this to have a great variety and variation. Yeah. It's quite brilliant. And there's soil on the top there in that thing. So there's other types of trees that are growing there that aren't, yes, there's the branches of the tree itself that's the same kind of tree. But there's also other trees that grow there and, bushes and shrubs and stuff. So, yeah, and flowers, of course. I love flowers. I mean, you can imagine they make it beautiful because it's something it's designed. Yes, the tree is later it comes into it a little bit, but I'll just share a little bit now. These giant trees are natural to Nobelia. One of the many, many reasons why Nobelia was chosen as the home planet. These giant trees being one of them. However, because they do lots of nature shaping and gardening, they also added to these trees. They enable them to grow bigger by shaping their lateral branches, and they got the branch to grow, one of the major lateral branches, or a couple of them actually, to grow into the mountain. Right? They directed it, so it gave the tree an anchor. And because of that anchor, the tree was now much more stable and could grow even larger. And there's more coming. I don't want to give it away that they did in this, assisting the tree to be a giant tree. It's a very, very cool part of the story that's coming. So, but that's in the next chapter. There's moreness coming. Moreness coming. All right. Biella started walking towards one of the large branches, leading away from the mountain. I have something else to show you, Biella said neutrally. Ursula picked up on the even tone and was instantly interested. She laughed. A great way to get my attention. Biella laughed with her, but said nothing to satisfy Ursula's curiosity. What she intended was truly something to show. Biella had something else in mind first. And this is also part of Biella, right? That she can have a purpose and have a side purpose and do them both at the same time, right? She doesn't forget her main purpose, her center column. She always will come back to it, no matter how many digressions she makes. And this is just simply practice. We just simply need to practice maintaining our core intent and then understand, oh, I'm going on a detour, and remember that you're on a detour. Don't forget you're on a detour. And then you always come back. It's very easy, right? And it doesn't matter how long your detour takes. As long as you know you're on a detour, you know you're going to come back, right? And it's a very powerful thing to do because it gives a cohesiveness, a longer term connectivity and a cohesiveness. She always comes back to the important things, right? Among the new nobility, any conversation was always an open one. That's a statement that needs some unpacking, right? That means they never have an expectation of privacy, and this is well known. So, in other words, you cannot possibly eavesdrop on the new nobility because they have no expectation of their conversations being private. They always speak as if somebody is listening, and indeed, you are invited to listen. You are invited to eavesdrop. If you don't want to be right close to me, you can stand on the other side of the hedge and listen to me. You won't be eavesdropping. You will be doing something that is part of the culture, right? And there is an instance earlier where Camillus is there and the two new nobles are on the other side of the hedge and he hears them talking, right? And he responds to them and they respond to him, and it's like a little bit of a peculiar circumstance. But this is an incredible way to have a society, which means that I can partake in conversations, however it is of value to me. Because sometimes I don't necessarily want to be part of the conversation. Now, to be a part of the conversation doesn't mean I'm saying something. I could simply be in the circle. I'm still partaking through my reactions, through my responses, through my force of awareness, right? I cannot help but be a part of the conversation if I'm there physically present. But sometimes I don't want to do that because I don't have the energy for this. And I don't want to be putting stuff out that needs to be responded to. So sometimes I want to be a bit anonymous. So I sit outside the circle, yes, and I just listen. I might sit with my back to it, right? For instance, where I'm just absorbing, because that's the space that I'm in and the energy that I'm in, right? It's like how you can participate to this live. Sometimes you come and you comment, but other times you're just anonymous. You don't even click a like or a love there because you just want to be able to listen anonymously. There's a great value to that, right? And we recognize it when we are participating in things like these lives, where we're just listening, yes. But you don't want to listen to the recording. You want to listen to it live, but you want to be anonymous. Now, this is understood, and it's part of the actual oral culture where you can come and participate and be anonymous. Like I said, you could sit on the next bench over, sit with your back turned, be on the other side of the hedge. There's no eavesdropping. You can participate anonymously. It's very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. I never took what you said as criticism, Norma. Never, ever, ever. Never, ever, ever. I know you won't be criticized. Not a problem. Not a problem. And if you do say something that is that way, it would be a positive value and constructive contribution. So never think that. Never think that. What is a good value to live by? Sure, I missed when you said the comment. Sorry. I want to connect it. I'm keen to know what is a good value to live by before I continue. Yeah, right, exactly. Because you have this no expectation of privacy. Every single thing every new noble does is share. Always. Whatever I say is for everyone, right? And this prevents this mindset, oh, about the color of trees. Oh no, I know it was the criticism. It's just a question. Just a question. I know Bean. I know Norma, no problem. Yes, it's wonderful, sure. But just think of the freedom, right? where you always are being fully open. Internally, you don't have any secrets. This is a wonderful way to live. This whole idea of secrets and guarding and I mean, for what? Only in a culture that you have, people that are seeking to do things with that. But when you are truly open like that, even BMNs who are looking to pull you down, they can't do anything with it because it's open, right? So it doesn't even work in that case, right? It's just a wonderful way to live, to have this pureness and openness. And of course, when you are fully open, it means that others can share and connect to you, right? When I have the intent to be open, look at the nuance here. Here we come to some moreness now. If I have exactly, it alleviates anxiety. Precisely. It just completely not only alleviates it, it, there's no room for anxiety. There's just no possibility of being anxious. What are you possibly going to be anxious about? It's impossible because I'm open. And I know in my openness, I have nothing that needs defending or protecting, etc. In other words, why? Because I'm being impeccable. I have nothing to be ashamed about, nothing to be embarrassed about, etc., etc. So, of course, how can I not be open? But also, no, no, they don't have anxiety, Norma. Why? Based on what? What are they possibly going to be anxious about? What is Biella or Ursula possibly going to be anxious about? Anxiety is a fear of an unknown. Yes. And usually anxiety is not fear about, physical things, right? And again, they're realistic. Okay, I might have a meteor drop on my head or whatever, a sinkhole could swallow me or whatever. Nothing I can do about that. So what's the point of being anxious? So they're very realistic, right? They say if something negative is going to happen, I'll deal with it. And if I can't prevent it, then it's my fate. Right? Okay. So there's no point in being anxious, waste of energy. Note well, they apply a way of impeccability. Core to way of impeccability is energy management. And rule number one of energy management is don't waste your energy. Anxiety is profound waste of energy. It doesn't accomplish anything. If you can do something by way of preparation, then do it. And once you've done it, then okay, I've done what I can do. Then there's nothing more I can do, and I carry on. Right? Anxiety is this complete indulgence in being worried about something that you can do nothing about. Yeah? It's just it's mind effery. It just makes no sense whatsoever, right? And of course, if you're going to be sensible, then when you start to really think about things, it becomes a duh not to be anxious. Like, how can I possibly be anxious? When you think about it, when you understand it, see, here's where capital U understanding leads to change of behavior. I cannot be anxious when I understand what it is. It's a square circle. It goes nowhere. It doesn't help me. It doesn't benefit me. Why are people anxious? Because they feel they should be. It shows that they're good people. How does it show they're good people? Well, I care about negative stuff. Look how good I am. You don't need to show that you're good by caring about negative stuff, right? So they can't be anxious. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very powerful. No, I know, Norma. You were just asking. You were just asking, Norma. I know. Yeah, yeah. Sir says it leaves any mental health off the table. Powerful concept. Yes, of course. If you've got mental health issues, that's a different thing. And if your mental health is when your brain isn't working the way it's intended to, right? The wiring's a bit crossed. Now, the wiring can get crossed psychologically, like in this case, or misunderstanding why anxiety, or there can be a hard wiring that gets crossed. It's the more difficult problem to deal with. But yeah, yeah. So all good, Normal, all good. Yeah. So but the point I wanted to make though, to come back to where I was about being open. If I live openly, yes, and share, look at the wonderfulness of that. My windows, my curtains are open, which means you can see into my house, which means you might be able to see something because of my openness that I've missed seeing because I'm too close to it. Yeah. So this is a wonderful thing. And this happens all of the time. Yes. That we see into each other and we share what we see because we're into sharing. And now you can get perspectives on yourself that you wouldn't otherwise have had available to you, all because of being open. And the openness comes from being sharing as well, right? When I open my curtains, I'm sharing it to whoever wants to look inside. Yeah. And same thing with our psychology. Very cool. Very cool. So this openness is a very big deal, right? So among the new nobility, any conversation was always an open one. Nothing a new noble ever said could not be repeated in public. Is that not just impeccability and integrity and goodness? If you cannot say it in public, don't say it. Yeah, very simple. Very simple. Don't be privately all, bitchy and nasty, and then, in public you're all sweet. No, that's hypocritical. If you understand this, you cannot be it, right? If you are looking to live with integrity, you can't have private opinions and not public. Yes. I was thinking about this, and it was bothering me. I was seeing the one of the clips, or of the Barbie, the movie Barbie, and I said, man, this actress, this representation of Barbie is just terrible. And I felt bad. I said, wow, what if I were to be in the presence of this actress? Would I hold that opinion? It bothered me. So I changed. So I found some way to have a positive perspective on this actress and the character. Yeah. I don't want to have a private opinion that, oh gosh, I mean, I can make a good case for why I said that, but because I can't hold it in public, I have to change it. Find the positive. Find the positive. Aspirants were encouraged to listen and partake in conversations at every opportunity. However, when new noble engaged in an obvious one-on-one, aspirants would usually respect the dynamic and hang back from the conversation. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I felt bad having a horrible perspective on poor Bobby, the actress. I was like, man, I felt that it was not a very positive portrayal, or positive way to be. Anyway, I don't want to go into the long thing, but yes, I did change. When you realize stuff about yourself, you got to change. That's it. You got to change. Well, anyway, this point here that I encourage to listen. Now, let's say like on a one-on-one, right? Like sometimes you see Bina and I will come on and we will be involved in something, and Bina will say, oh, my thought for the day. And she talks about, and it's just, she and I are interacting on something that is obviously something we've been talking about. It's not private. We're sharing it publicly. But in that instance, the back and forth, the going involvement, it would be disrupted if somebody were to jump in and join the conversation. It would change the whole dynamic. Not necessarily inappropriate, it would just change it. Seeing this, sometimes we say, you know what, what you've got going here, the two of you, you're back and forth. This is wonderful. You feeding off each other, you stimulate. So I don't even want to come and stand close to you, which will force you to take me into your consideration. Just your natural niceness would have that. So I'm going to hang back. But of course, I want to hear what you're saying, and this is encouraged, right? So this is the point that is there. So sometimes you're encouraged. Yes, of course, you can step up and join if you want to, but understand that you are going to be changing things. And if you're willing to do that, if it's important enough, you do it if you feel it's appropriate. But sometimes it's appropriate to hang back, right? But it's also appropriate to listen. It's encouraged that you listen to these one-on-one things. They're not private, they are public. Yes. I mean, there might be some rare instance of something being private, but I don't know. I can't really think of one. Yeah. Conversation. I suppose maybe, I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to go. Anyway, aspirants would usually respect the dynamic and hang back from the conversation. Still listening, but not partaking, right? So partaking isn't necessarily being verbal. Like, again, if I'm talking to you and we're standing facing each other and a person walks up and joins the circle, They are partaking whether they say anything or not. Yes? So let's just be aware that partaking is being present within a certain proximity. But if you're standing a little ways away, even if you're obviously listening, but you outside of the conversation circle dynamic, right? You're outside of our personal space. You're just that little bit further away. Well, then fine. You're obviously there to just listen and not partake. And I can essentially completely ignore you, right? I don't have to take you into cognizance. It's a very considerate thing to do, but also very profound because you're now getting access to this information that's going on. And sometimes these conversations can be profound, moreness conversations. And this is the magic of the society. They don't want to deprive this because they realize these are stuff that come and go and they may never be repeated. So why only have it between the two of us? If others can connect to it, this is one, right? And there's a reason why they don't record everything. And you could record it and then have it transcribed on the computer. It's too much to all read. And when you're participating it live, it's more dynamic, it's more real, it's a greater emphasis. Yes. And now also later on, you're going to come back maybe and say, oh, in that conversation, you're going to come back with a takeaway and you're going to do repeat backs. In that is the magic of emphasis with both the repeat backs and the takeaways. When is you reading it, you're just on your own in your own little bubble. It goes in one ear, out the other ear, and you think you've got quiet stuff because you've read it. No, you've got to apply it, right? Conversation. That's why it's an oral culture. Conversation, application, right? Because I can't just be regurgitating things, right? Like anxiety. You might come and repeat what I said as an aspirant all about anxiety, but if I see you still anxious, I'm saying, yeah, but you've got to apply this, aspirant X. You can't just say you understand it, and you might actually understand it. But if it doesn't actually lead to application and real change, then your understanding is pointless. You see? So in that interactivity, there is the actual ability to perceive and see whether there is actual application, right? And we put ourselves on notice, right? So when I'm coming to share, I'm not sharing my understanding, I'm sharing my application. Very different thing. Very, very powerful. Very, very, very powerful. Very powerful stuff, right? So I'm just elaborating on the nuance of the culture. It's a very profound culture. Like all of this stuff is very thought through, right? It's very thought through. There's a deeper logic to it. Still listening, but not participating. A most marvelous mechanism, providing the opportunity to observe as well as listen. There's two different things. Yes, when we're up close, it's sometimes not that easy to observe because I'm participating. And now I've got to pay attention to the appropriateness of my participation. So I can listen, but not necessarily observe. It is possible to do this, and this is capital H hearing, but it's a skill that has to be learned and practiced. And it's a very deep skill that takes a lot of practice to do. Yes, to be able to observe and listen. Yes, and then to go further and deeper and connect to moreness and look at the implications and associations and connections. It's a very deep skill. That's very profound. Capital H hearing is a very deep skill. And capital H hearing is ultimately what leads to our ability to live in attunement, because that's what capital H hearing is. It is the particularized skill of attunement, right? That's why it's such a huge deal. Huge, huge, huge deals. Exactly, exactly. But this is what capital H hearing is meant to be, sure. Going all the way with it, right? If we get to the very end of capital H hearing, the program, it starts to connect to the spirituality of capital H hearing. Capital H hearing is when taken to its extreme, is an extremely spiritual application. Capital H hearing, in other words, taken to its extreme, is practical spirituality, real spirituality. The spirituality that's not practical, forget it, it's a waste of time. You've got to feel a realness out of it. So yeah, it's a very big deal, very big deal. So this entire culture, right? Not only in the interactions between individuals, and when you are observing and participating and at least connecting and hearing stuff, and you're not participating, all of it, all of the social dynamic of this oral culture, why it's oral, is leading to the opportunities to practice the spirituality of ultimate attunement. Yeah, that's what you're doing every single day in everything you're doing. It's always spiritual in the end. Very profound. Very profound, right? So spirituality is nothing but connecting to the essence of things. What is the essence of things? The abstract understanding, right? The thing that if you remove that, the thing stops being the thing. Yeah? It is the thing that determines everything else. The one core essential criteria that is determinative of the whole. Yes? Spirit. Yeah? Spirituality. See? When you think of when you think of spirituality in terms of this, it is the connecting, the understanding, and the utilization and interaction with the essential element of something. Yes. And when you start to connect to the spirit of the world, what is the spirit of the world? The core essential element. Well, goodness, caring, nurturing. Yeah, I mean of the physical world. See? When you start to look at this entirety of what makes it what when you remove it, then the world will collapse. And that which of course is not physical. Yeah. You can remove a lot of the physical world and it's going to stay the world. That's not what makes the world, right? And the same thing with the universe. Yeah. So when we look at this spirituality, we are looking at the core intent, in other words. Intents, plural, and not the singular. They're a conglomeration of intents. Same with us as individuals. Yes, they have particular intents, and it's an agglomeration of intents, and that's what makes us unique. Yes, our essence, our essence. Very powerful stuff. Very powerful stuff. But of course, it needs to be practical. Because if I'm not able to utilize this connectivity, then there's no point to it, right? So attunement is incredibly practical. And what is the practicality, right? It's not always practical. When we say practical here, or the new nobility say practical, I don't mean practical in that, I'm going to get a strawberry, pick up a strawberry from the ground and I can eat it. All right, practical. It doesn't have to be physical. For me to be able to extract profound appreciation from my connection to the spirit, to spirituality. This is an incredible practical result. If I feeling appreciation, deep, deep, deep appreciation, my life is enhanced profoundly. Yes, profoundly enhanced. That appreciation leads to joy. Very practical. Joy and appreciation, exceedingly, exquisitely practical. Yes. Yes, again, the soul is your essence, but it's what comprises you, right? As an essence, as a soul, as spirit, all the same thing, soul, spirit. Yeah. But when we look at it as essence, we understand essence is that which, when removed, the thing is no longer the same. Yeah. Spirit. Yes. Spirit is defining essence. Yes, defining essence. And it's kind of the meaning of essence. Yes, that essence is what gives you your definition. Yes, but not definition as in narrow and limited. It's what leads to the conception of what you are, the grandness, the overallness, the moreness. Right? It's very powerful way of understanding spirituality. As when we have essence as a synonym for spirit or spirituality, spirituality is the connectivity to essence, to profound essence. Yes, to essence that matters. Yeah, very, 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 very powerful, powerful understanding of spirituality, right? Because now it starts to make it sadly a little bit more real, a bit more relatable. Not this vagueness, because most people don't no clue about spirituality, and especially those that tend to talk about spirituality have no clue, right? So it's always vague, it's always hinted at, it's always alluded to, it's always implied, yes, and they don't really know what they're talking about. Yeah? Spirituality is going to come in this the longer term, this friendship and the connections and the gestures. It's all going to come together, right? We're going to see more of it. Very powerful. But yeah, this is a wonderful topic, the spirituality, the essence. Mina, what do you think about it? To understand it via essence, the abstract understanding, right? That's what an abstract understanding is. The abstract is that core essence, the essential element that makes something. That's the abstract of it, yes? And then you can take this and apply it to other things, right? That all connects, all connects. No problem, Norma, no problem at all. I love that you're here. And of course, there is the recording. And actually, I think this is actually a good time to end it. Because, that would be very appropriate, right? Just want to hear what Vina has to say on this understanding of spirituality that enables it to become practical, this connectivity to essence, to the abstract, right? All the same, abstract essence, right? Spirit.
Absolutely. This was so wonderful. I'm struggling with my throat. It's getting dry, so we will share it tomorrow. Can we?
Okay. Yes, we're gonna end. We're gonna end right now. A very appropriate time to end.
Thank you so much. Thank
Very
you.
appropriate. All right. I love it, Sir. Thank you for being here, Sir. What
Thank you
a
so much,
brilliant conversation.
Norma and
This
everyone.
is why we do this. This
Yeah.
is what it's all about. This is Nobelia-Living. Yes, to have a nice deep conversation without it being like, when I grew up, this whole thing of deep conversations, it was a negative. Oh no, that's too heavy for me. That was the word that was said. It's too heavy. It's too deep. It's too heavy. Come on, man. You want to just live a shallow life all your life? Well, no, not me. Right? So yeah, we can have these profound conversations and really enjoy it and get the full value and maximum. Here is the environment in which profoundness, heaviness, deepness is appropriate. Not only appropriate, but magical and more and joyful and delightful. What a wonderful conversation we had. So thank you, Norma. So thank you, Sure. Just too fantastic. Too fantastic. Yeah, I always feel a bit bad that, I have these conversations on a regular basis. Every day, Bean and I have these. That's why we're coming on Zoom to share them. I feel bad that people miss out on them. Yes. We make an effort to bring Nobelia-Living into our daily lives. And in the lives, we're sharing Nobelia-Living. I feel bad that people miss out. I really
Yeah.
do. Feel bad they miss out. All right. All right. Right on that wonderful note, and we'll come back to this topic of spirituality. Yes,
Yes.
it's an
Yes.
ongoing theme. Whenever I say attunement, it is spirituality. Right? Attunement is the practical application. This is how you are spiritual, by being attuned. Attunement is the end, the practical application point of spirituality. Yes. I try to not use spirituality too often because it's a very corrupted word and it's got a lot of baggage to it. Attunement is a pure word. It's my word. Yes. That's it. Comes from me. This concept of attunement. I mean, not the word itself, obviously, but as a conception and the way I use it. Yes. So it has freshness to it and it's a pureness to it. So we can get to, and I'm saying attunement, this is new nobility spirituality. This is way of impeccability spirituality. Yes. This is the realness, practical value. Right? Attunement is an incredible skill, incredible power, as in the quote by Biella. Right? I mean, Biella's quote in the start of the chapter, isn't that a most incredibly spiritual quote? Yes, of course. But again, when you look at it through attunement, it has that moreness, right? And you can add spirituality if you like, but attunement is its own magical power. It's a moreness. It's a moreness. All right. Bye-bye, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. See you tomorrow. Thank
I
you.
love this. I love
Bye for
this.
now.
Stop the live stream.